Welcome back to Invasive Brews, everybody. I'm in Kansas City, home of my favorite football team and world famous for their barbecue. But that's not what brings me here today. What I'm looking for is a lot smaller and has caused a lot of economic and ecological damage. Let's jump into it. In 2002, someone in Detroit, Michigan sent in an insect that they didn't recognize, and experts soon confirmed that it was emerald ash borer, a highly destructive borer beetle, especially to ash tree species, that's native to China, North and South Korea, Japan, and eastern Russia. Presumably introduced through contaminated shipping containers in the Great Lakes, this borer beetle quickly established itself, and is now in 35 different states and has killed tens of millions of ash trees. That's what brings me to Kansas City, to see what can be done about this invasive species. And Ryan Lawn & Tree is a company that specializes in tree and plant health.
We're right in the heat of the battle with invasive insects, EAB, and Japanese beetles. We don't think about it, but it's definitely here, and now we're starting to dabble in the boxwood blight as well.
And Ryan Lawn & Tree has several individuals working with these invasive pests. Ken Wallace is one of those determined few to save the city's ash trees.
We are going to measure the trees. So everything that we do is based upon the diameter at breast height. So that's what's going to tell us how much insecticide to put into the tree, as well as how many ports that we're going to drill at the base of the tree. And we're going to get our measurement. So here's 0, and I know it's more out, but here's 16 inches, here's 17 inches. Now this, we have our handy hatchet, because what we're going to do is, this is technically not a girdling root, but it is constricting this flare here, so we're going to relieve this here, just to kind of give it a little bit, as you can see the indentation here, whatever. I think in our due diligence, it's the least we could do to kind of open this vascular system so it's not constricted as time goes on. And the reason being is, what we want to do is we want to get good vascular tissue to bring the product up and distribute it as evenly as we can throughout the tree. So we're going to drill a hole, and we don't want to bury this drill bit. We just want to do maybe like 3/4 of it, because we want to get at the end of the xylem tissue, which is the most robust vascular cells, whatever, for the uptake of the product. So if we go too deeply, we're into too deep of the xylem tissue, and we're starting to get into the heartwood of the tree, and it's less robust as far as the vascular system is concerned. 2, 3, and I'm trying to get like the root flares. I don't want to get necessarily in the valley of the tree, like here. This would be a poor spot to put an injection port, because the vascular system is not as robust there as it is on the flare of the tree. So that's where we're trying to get it. We're trying to get it, so 3, 4. This is our kit, and the insecticide will go in this container, and this is just a series of ports. So this is, there's several different methods of doing EAB injections. This happens to be what's called the Quick Connect. This is less invasive than some of the other methods. Some other methods use a plastic plug that drills a very larger hole. You insert this plastic plug, tamp it in, and with air pressure, with the compressed air, you insert the material into that valve and plug. So now, we're going to take this canister, and this is where we're going to put our insecticide. And we have a matrix that tells us how much to use. So this is a 17-inch DBH, and it indicates that we need 80 milliliters of the product. And the active ingredient is really what the key is, and it's emamectin benzoate. That's really the quintessential element of the treatment, the best that there is. All the studies indicate that this is the most efficacious product for the treatment of the emerald ash borer. But what we're going to do is this pressure will bring the material out of the canister and bring it to the tree, and the tree's vascular system will bring it up. So the tree is doing the work, we're merely just kind of assisting it. So I'll release this valve, and then it'll send the material through the harness into the valves. And then the tree, transpiration, osmosis, will bring it up into the canopy.
Once we're done, we're off to the next home to save its ash tree. And the next. And the next. And the next tree. And the next neighborhood. Only stopping for a quick rainstorm. You can definitely tell the ash trees that have been treated and the ash trees that haven't. These two are right next to each other, and one has the emerald ash borer and one has been treated by Ryan Lawn and Tree.
Right amongst all this.
And sadly, once your ash tree gets the emerald ash borer infestation, this is the result. And here in North America, we have billions of ash trees that are being attacked by this invasive species. And once that canopy is gone in the ash forest, it allows sunlight to hit the forest floor, which allows other invasive plants to invade that area, thus contributing to more biodiversity loss. So just how do you tell if you have an infestation of emerald ash borer? Well, your ash trees start dying from the top down. The canopy is the first to die off. You start seeing little zigzag patterns underneath the bark. The zigzag is distinctive of the emerald ash borer, along with a half moon or D-shaped exit hole.
The insect starts really small, and as it feeds, it gets larger. And then this would have been where it exited the tree. So you can actually see the development of the... But they usually start at the top, and then they'll start kind of working down the tree. So it's until the tree's totally, the way I like to say it, until it's totally fed out, they won't really necessarily move on. Now they have the ability to move on, but what we've seen is that in neighborhoods where you've got one tree that's got it real bad, it doesn't necessarily spread like wildfire. That one tree will have to go down, and then it starts to move to
Then
the
when the
adjacent
food
trees.
source is gone, they move to the next
Yep.
food source. These guys work day in and day out to protect North America's ash trees. As for me, I'm going to have a beer at a historical Kansas City brewery. Servaes Brewing, Kansas's first woman-owned brewery.
I mean, I guess I don't really cook a whole lot with beer. I mean, when I do, it's like marinating.
Yeah.
But like definitely with desserts, brandies, and scotches. If you like.
So I guess I can say that I'm Courtney Servaes and I own Servaes Brew Co. We opened 2.5 years ago, and we're in Shawnee, Kansas. Probably what makes us typically the thing that people notice first is that I'm a woman brewer. And when we opened, I became the first female brewer in the state of Kansas that was also an owner of a brewery. So that was kind of cool, and that, like, usually people want to ask about that. But aside from the fact that I'm a woman, I love to do kind of unique and some people say outrageous things with beer. So I try to kind of add different colors, different fruits, sometimes vegetables, sometimes candy, cakes, whatever I can come up with to the beer. And I try to always have something new and rotating on tap. So I guess that's the biggest thing that makes us unique. A lot of people really like that we have sodas, so we have a non-alcoholic option, and we try to do a lot of family-oriented type stuff, which is kind of unique for a brewery. But Aaron is his name. He's 15, and when I homebrewed, he was very small, but he was very excited about the process and what I was making, and so we started making sodas. Many of them were terrible. Soda making and beer making is quite different, but the root beer was kind of the first one that we really figured out. And when I was getting into beer, we would travel all over to all different kinds of breweries, and if a brewery had root beer, it was like a particularly great experience for him that he would want to go back to. He would ask me like, hey, can we go back to that brewery because they had root beer? And if they had root beer, they usually had games or some sort of other family dynamic that really made that experience more than just me drinking beer and him playing on his iPad or whatever. So it kind of became something that a passion project for the brewery. Yeah, I live in Shawnee, so when we started to look for a brewery space, I really liked the idea of being close enough that I could pick my kids up from, soccer practice and then come back here. But the specific area that we chose, it was kind of, I don't want to say run down, but there weren't a lot of new businesses and there wasn't a lot of foot traffic. So I really liked the idea of being a part of like revitalizing this downtown area, which they call Old Shawnee. Shawnee Mission Parkway is like New Shawnee. This is Old Shawnee. So anyway, I'm trying to make Old Shawnee new again. Yeah, we love to make sours. That's probably the thing that people like of ours the best, and the thing that people ask about or seek out, which is interesting because I actually don't like them. So as a home brewer, it was like the thing that I was scared of the most, because you have to add lactobacillus to it and let it sit and sour. And so there were some very nasty experiences in our basement with that, and bathtub, and ceiling. But we've got it figured out now. So anyway, sours tend to be the thing that people like the most. It's not my preference, but you gotta make what people want.